going on, guys? It's your boy John the Liquidator coming back with breaking news, hot off the press. So it looked like Alyssa Thomas' assault on Caitlin Clark has not been gone unnoticed. She will be suspended for physically harming and choking Caitlin Clark after the game yesterday. The WNBA has released a statement 28 seconds ago. Let's jump into it right now. It's being reported that Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas receives flagrant foul, 2 penalty, and a 1-game suspension.
The WNBA just dropped a suspension that's got everyone talking, but the real story goes way deeper than the headlines. Alyssa Thomas got slapped with a flagrant 2 and 1-game ban for what went down with Caitlin Clark, and the league released their statement just 28 seconds before the footage hit social media. That timing alone tells you something. But here's what most people missed while they were focused on that throat contact. This wasn't some random moment of frustration. This was the boiling point of something that's been building all season long. The referees missed the call in real time. The league had to upgrade it after reviewing the footage. And that's become a pattern this season. Every time Clark takes questionable contact, either the officials miss it or call it differently than similar plays involving other players. Then the WNBA has to come back and issue statements or upgrade penalties. It's a cycle that keeps repeating, and it raises serious questions about what's really happening on that court. So let's break down what actually went down, why the officials missed it, and what this suspension actually signals about the league's biggest rookie's future.
See, so us in the arena cannot hear what the ref is currently saying right now. Oh, yeah, she's definitely flopping on that one. So fans here believe that she's going to get a technical foul. Here we go. Where's Stephanie at? So here's Stephanie. We don't know the outcome yet. It was a dirty play by Alyssa Thomas. She initiated the contact. Oh, it looked like Aaliyah Boston probably is getting attacked. Aaliyah Boston getting attacked. Aaliyah Boston getting attacked. The fans is booing. The fans is booing right now, guys.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas received a flagrant 2 penalty and a 1-game suspension for reckless contact with her fist to Caitlin Clark's throat. The incident happened with 6 minutes and 52 seconds remaining in the second quarter of Phoenix's 111-109 victory over Indiana. The league's official statement used careful language, calling it reckless contact rather than intentional contact, which is an important distinction. It suggests the WNBA doesn't believe Thomas was deliberately trying to hurt Clark, but rather that she made a play without regard for the consequences. That's the definition of a flagrant 2, unnecessary and excessive contact that puts another player at risk. But here's what made this moment so significant. The referees initially called this a common foul. Not a flagrant 1, not a flagrant 2, just a regular foul. It took a full post-game review for the league office to determine that Thomas had committed what they termed a non-basketball act. That phrase is crucial because it's the league's way of saying this wasn't hard playoff-style basketball. This was something that crossed the line into genuinely dangerous play. The fact that the officials missed it in real time is the real story here. The fans in Indianapolis saw it immediately. They knew something was wrong before the referees even blew the whistle.
Aaliyah Boston getting attacked.
After review, the foul on Copper stands. We also have a flagrant foul on number 7 from the Indiana Fever.
Flagrant, not attack. Wow. That's crazy work. Aaliyah Boston still talking to the ref. She's still going off on the ref right now. Aaliyah Boston still going off. She's snapping on the ref, bro. She's still talking. Wow. Crazy work. Yep, and they get the ball back. Final. They definitely altered the game. Another foul. Another foul.
Indiana, number 0.
hear
Now
the
watch
crowd
Kelsey
reaction
Mitchell's
shift.
reaction here.
People standing
This
in
is
the arena
important
recognize
because
the
Mitchell has
severity
been
of
in the
what just
league
happened
long
before the
enough to know
officiating
what's
crew even
normal
processed
physical
it.
play and what
That's a telling
crosses the
detail
line.
because it shows
She's
you that
not a
this wasn't
rookie
some
who
subtle
doesn't
contact
understand
that
how the
reasonable
game is
people
played
could
at this
disagree
level.
about.
And
This
she's
was obvious
absolutely
enough that
going off
thousands
on
of
the
people in a
official.
loud
That
arena
tells
all
you something
understood
about how
something dangerous
Indiana
had
viewed
just
what was
occurred.
happening on the court.
Thomas will
The
serve her
referees ended
suspension
up
on
calling
June
5
27th
fouls
when
on
Phoenix
Kelsey
faces
Mitchell in
Seattle.
this game. 5.
She'll miss
And
one
you can
game
see her
and then she'll be back
frustration
on the
building
court.
because from
The
Indiana's
suspension will be noted in
perspective,
her
they're
record,
watching
but
their
it won't
rookie
define her
sensation
career.
get hit with
She's too
contact that's
accomplished
not
and
being
too
called
respected for one
consistently
flagrant
while they're
foul to
getting
change how
whistled for
people view her
defensive
as a
plays
player
that
long
seem
term.
less
But
egregious.
for the WNBA,
Mitchell eventually
this
fouled
suspension
out
is
with
about
just
way
over
more
2
than one
minutes
player
remaining in the
one
fourth
game.
quarter.
It's about how
Indiana
the
was
league
down
handles physical play while also
103-98 at that
protecting the
point,
players
and
who are
losing their
driving
second leading
unprecedented
scorer
attention
in
and
crunch
growth.
time of a 2-possession
And
game
that's
is
where things get
significant. The
complicated.
Fever ended.
Give it to Sophie. Sophie wide open. Sophie wide open.
Let's see.
Good job. 100 to 104. No one. Kelsey Mitchell just fouled out.
Foul.
How?
Alexi Hall.
Definitely White is talking to the ref.
What most people missed while they were focused on that specific throat contact is that this wasn't some isolated incident. This was the boiling point of something that's been building all season long. Caitlin Clark has been taking contact throughout the season that looks questionable in real time. Sometimes the officials call it. Sometimes they don't. And when they don't, the league often has to come back later and address it through post-game reviews and upgraded penalties. It's a cycle that's been repeating constantly, and it raises serious questions about whether the officiating crew is keeping up with the intensity of play around the league's biggest rookie. Physical defense is absolutely part of basketball. Players are allowed to be physical within the rules. That's not controversial. The question isn't whether Caitlin Clark should get special treatment or softness called in her favor. The real question is whether she's getting equal treatment under the same rules that apply to every other player on the court. Look at the actual numbers. Through the first half of the season, Clark was averaging the third most fouls drawn per game among guards, which sounds good on the surface. But she was also taking contact on drives that wasn't being called consistently. Other players were getting to the free throw line on similar contact, while Clark was being told to play through it. That's not about being soft, that's about consistency and how the rules are being enforced. Watch what happens every
Here's what hustle plays are all about. You got 3 Phoenix players around Caitlin Clark, and yeah, it's physical. Streaking to the
single time Clark touches the ball down the stretch. 3. Sometimes 4 Phoenix defenders are collapsing on her immediately. She's getting defended like she's already an all-star with physical pressure that most rookies never experience. This is the reality of her rookie season. Every single possession looks the same. 3 Phoenix players surrounding her, bodies everywhere, fighting just to maintain possession. That level of defensive attention is relentless, and it's unrelenting. The question becomes whether the officials can keep up with what's actually happening on the court when there's that much happening at once. The pattern matters because it tells you that the Thomas incident didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened within a broader context of physical play that's been directed at Clark all season long. Some of it gets called. Some of it doesn't. Some of it gets reviewed after the fact and upgraded. But the inconsistency is what creates frustration for the player, for her teammates, for the fans watching, and ultimately for the league trying to manage a narrative that's become increasingly complex. Here's where the game gets really interesting. While everyone's focused on the Thomas-Clark interaction, something else is happening in the background that completely changes the complexion of the entire game. Kelsey Mitchell, Indiana's second leading scorer, is getting frustrated because she's watching the officiating inconsistency unfold right in front of her. She's not a rookie who doesn't understand physical play at this level. She's been in this league long enough to recognize when something's off. She's been in enough games to know what a legitimate foul looks like versus what's being called as one, and she's going absolutely off on the officials because of what she's seeing. Mitchell ended up with 5 fouls in this game. 5, not 3, not 4, 5 fouls. And you can see her frustration building throughout because from Indiana's perspective, they're watching their rookie sensation get hit with contact that's not being called consistently, while they're getting whistled for defensive plays that seem significantly less egregious. It's a completely different standard being applied depending on who's involved. Mitchell fouled out with just over 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Indiana was down 103-98 at that point, so they were down to 2-possession game. Losing your second leading scorer in crunch time of a close game is absolutely massive. That's the difference between having options down the stretch and being forced to rely heavily on your young rookie. The Fever lost the game by 2 points, 111-109. Would they have won with Mitchell on the floor? We'll never know. That's the frustrating part. We can't rewind and play it again with different officiating. But what we do know is that the officiating became a major storyline in this game, and not just because of that one play involving Thomas and Clark. The consistency of calls is what created the problem. The collateral damage isn't just about one flagrant foul. It's about how that inconsistency ripples through the entire game and potentially impacts the final outcome. When your second leading scorer is sitting on the bench with 5 fouls because of inconsistent whistles, your entire game plan changes. Now let's talk about Alyssa Thomas and why this suspension is actually more complicated than it initially appears. Thomas is one of the most respected players in the WNBA. She's a 6-time All-Star, she's a champion, and she's widely regarded as one of the toughest competitors in the entire league. This isn't some player with a known history of dirty play getting caught doing something she's done before. This isn't a pattern of behavior. This is a veteran who made a decision in the heat of competition that crossed the line, and now she's paying the price for it. The league's decision to call it reckless contact rather than intentional contact matters. It's not just semantics. It suggests the WNBA doesn't believe Thomas was deliberately trying to injure Clark, but rather that she made a play without proper regard for the consequences. That's flagrant 2 territory by definition, unnecessary and excessive contact. But it also leaves room for the interpretation that this was a heat-of-the-moment mistake made in the intensity of competition rather than a calculated attempt to harm another player. Those are 2 very different things, and the distinction affects how people view Thomas as a competitor. Here's the thing about Thomas that often gets lost in these situations. She's got a reputation for toughness and competitiveness that's earned her respect across the entire league. Other players know what kind of competitor she is. They know she plays hard within the rules. They know she's not out there trying to injure people. So when something like this happens, it stands out more because it's not consistent with who she is as a player. That context matters when you're trying to understand what actually went down and why. It doesn't excuse the flagrant foul, but it does help explain it as an anomaly rather than a pattern. Thomas will sit out 1 game against Seattle on June 27th. After that, she'll be back on the court playing. The suspension will be noted in her permanent record, but it won't define her career long term. She's too accomplished and too well respected for one flagrant foul to change how people view her as a player. But for the moment, she's now part of a narrative about whether veteran players are being unfairly scrutinized when playing against the league's biggest rookie. That's a position she probably never wanted to be in. Here's where the bigger question emerges, and it's one that's going to have ripple effects throughout the rest of the season. Is 1 game the right punishment for what the league itself classified as a non-basketball act involving contact to the throat area? That's not a rhetorical question. That's a serious question that determines what signal the WNBA is sending about how it handles dangerous play. Compare this to how the NBA handles similar situations. When NBA players make contact to the head or neck area of star players, especially in ways that are classified as non-basketball acts, suspensions of multiple games are common. 2 games, 3 games, sometimes more. The NBA has made a deliberate decision that protecting its stars is worth the risk of being accused of preferential treatment. The WNBA seems to be trying to find a middle ground between protecting its players and avoiding the appearance of special treatment, and the result is a suspension that feels calibrated to avoid controversy rather than to send a genuinely strong message. But here's the reality that makes this decision even more complicated. The WNBA was going to face criticism no matter what they decided. Suspend Thomas for multiple games, and you've got people arguing that the league is overreacting and giving Caitlin Clark special treatment, that she's getting protected in a way that other players never would be. Suspend her for just one game, and you've got people arguing that the league isn't taking player safety seriously, that a non-basketball act involving the throat deserves more than a one-game ban. There was literally no decision that was going to satisfy everyone. So the league chose the option that felt most defensible based on the specific circumstances of the play and the broader context. One game, that's the suspension. It tells players that contact to the head or neck area deemed reckless will cost you a game. That's important information. But it also tells players that even when the league classifies something as a non-basketball act involving one of its biggest stars, the punishment is going to be measured and moderate. One game, not two, not three. One. That sets a particular kind of precedent about what the league considers proportional punishment for this type of violation. Whether that's the right precedent is going to be debated for weeks. The suspension matters because the WNBA is in the middle of its most watched season in over 2 decades, driven almost entirely by Caitlin Clark's arrival and the attention she's brought to the league. Television ratings are up across the board. Attendance is spiking in every single arena she plays in. Merchandise sales are breaking records. The league is finally getting mainstream attention it's deserved for years. And right in the middle of this breakthrough moment, the WNBA is dealing with a narrative about whether its biggest star is being protected adequately. That's not a narrative the league wants, but it's the one they've got. Every time Caitlin Clark takes a hard foul that looks questionable, every time officials miss a call in real time that has to be upgraded later, every time a veteran player gets physical with her in a way that seems to cross the line, it reinforces the perception that the league isn't doing enough to protect its investment. But here's the thing that doesn't get talked about enough. Clark has never asked for special treatment. Not once. She's never complained publicly about the physical play. She's never called out officials. She's never singled out opponents. She shows up, takes the contact, keeps playing, and moves on to the next game. That's to her credit. That shows incredible professionalism from a rookie navigating an incredibly intense spotlight. But the league has a responsibility that goes beyond what any individual player asks for. The WNBA has to ensure that the rules are being enforced consistently, and that all players, including its biggest stars, are protected from genuinely dangerous play. They can't just wait for players to complain. They have to be proactive about it. The Thomas suspension is the league trying to thread that needle between protecting Clark and avoiding the appearance of preferential treatment. They reviewed the play, determined it crossed the line, and issued a penalty. That's the system working as designed. The officials are now in an incredibly difficult position. Every game Caitlin Clark plays is going to be scrutinized. Every hard foul is going to be analyzed frame by frame on social media. Every missed call is going to generate headlines and hot takes. The referees are under a microscope, and that's not an easy place to operate when you're trying to let players compete physically while also protecting them from dangerous contact. They have to make split-second decisions in real time, knowing that if they miss something, it's going to be upgraded after the game and become a national story. The players defending Clark are in an equally impossible position. They can't back off and give her easy looks because she'll torch them for 30 points. But if they play her physically, and something gets called a flagrant or upgraded after review, suddenly they're the villain in a story being watched by millions of people who never cared about the WNBA before this season. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone just trying to do their job and compete at the highest level. It creates a dynamic where everyone involved is walking a tightrope, and one misstep gets amplified across social media instantly. Here's what comes next, and this is the part that actually matters for the rest of the season. The one-game suspension might quiet this conversation for a moment, but it's absolutely not going to end it. Because as long as Caitlin Clark is drawing the kind of defensive attention and physical play that comes with being a transformational talent, people are going to be watching how the league responds to every single incident. Every game she plays is going to be scrutinized. Every hard foul is going to be analyzed frame by frame on social media. Every missed call is going to generate headlines and debates about whether she's being protected enough or getting special treatment. The suspension sets a marker. It tells players in the league that contact to the head or neck area deemed reckless will result in missing a game. That's a clear consequence. But it also suggests that one-game suspensions are the baseline for non-basketball acts, which means future incidents of similar severity will likely receive similar punishment unless the league decides to escalate. That precedent matters because it tells players what they can expect if they cross the line against the league's biggest star. What happens the next time there's a controversial play around Clark? The league will be expected to respond with similar consistency. If they hand out a longer suspension next time, it looks like they're responding to public pressure. If they hand out a shorter suspension, it looks like they're going softer. They've essentially locked themselves into a pattern with this one-game decision. That's the weight of precedent. The bigger question is whether this suspension actually changes behavior. Does it change how players approach defending Caitlin Clark? Does it change how officials call games involving her? Does it change the conversation about physical play in the WNBA more broadly? Or does it just become another data point in a season that's already been defined by the tension between celebrating the league's breakthrough moment and managing the growing pains that come with sudden mainstream attention? That's what we need to watch for going forward. Because the real test of whether this suspension was effective isn't what happens immediately. It's what happens over the next month when the league has to make similar decisions in other games. It's whether the consistency improves. It's whether the officials seem more confident in their calls involving Clark or more hesitant because they know everything's being watched. The suspension itself is just one moment. What matters is whether it actually changes the pattern. So was the one-game suspension the right call? The WNBA clearly thinks so, or they would have issued a different penalty. But the conversation about how Caitlin Clark is being defended, how officials are calling games involving her, and whether the league is doing enough to protect its biggest star isn't going away anytime soon. The suspension might quiet that conversation for a brief moment, but it's not going to end it. Because as long as Clark is drawing the kind of defensive attention and physical play that comes with being a transformational talent, people will be watching how the league responds. Alyssa Thomas will serve her suspension and move on. Caitlin Clark will keep playing, keep taking contact, and keep being the professional she's been all season. The officials will keep trying to navigate an impossible balance between letting players compete and protecting them from dangerous play. And the WNBA will keep growing, keep drawing record audiences, and keep dealing with the challenges that come with sudden success. One-game suspensions for non-basketball acts